So, hello, church. Great to be with you again. I'm here with Dave Blandford. So, hello, Dave.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. So, Dave's at work at the moment, so he's managed to get hold of some headphones or whatever and get online, which is great. So, we're just going to hear a bit about Dave. So, Dave, tell us a bit about you and who you are and your family and those things.
Okay, so I'm David Blandford. I'm married to Heather, and we're part of Highworth Community Church and have been apart for the last 5 years or so. Prior to that, then I was living in Upper Stratton, where I was minister of the Baptist Church there. We've got 3 grown-up kids. One lives more local, and the other 2 far away.
Brilliant. And in terms of, you mentioned there, Upper Stratton Baptist, so you're a Baptist minister for how many years?
Well, I still am, but I don't do church. I do hospital.
Yeah. So how many years were you ministering as a pastor, that sort of role?
Yeah, 32 years.
Wow. So that's going back a bit. So why did you get involved in that? What was the training like, those sort of things, and what led you to come to Swindon?
Okay, so going back historically, as a young Christian, I went overseas with a mission, and we were in Asia, and that was the time of sort of preparing for future ministry, really. And while I was there, I felt God calling me to Spurgeon's College, and at that time, that meant really going into Baptist ministry.
Yeah.
So as I pursued that further, that seemed bright. At one time, I was thinking about being a missionary, but my language skills are not brilliant. So I felt that a call to ministry was the right way to go. So I thought, okay, I'll do my voluntary year overseas, then I'll train as a minister. And then they said, well, first thing was I had to go back and get A-levels. So I had to do that. And that was good, going back to study. And then after that, I thought, okay, now I'm ready. I'd even did a Greek exam, and I hadn't done Greek before that. So that was interesting. But they then said, well, actually, you need a bit more experience. So I worked with a church in Banbury for a year alongside the minister, helping out, doing pastoral stuff, working with young people, all sorts of stuff there. And that ultimately led me to train for ministry, which was 4 years at Spurgeon's. And that was formative in terms of me coming to Swindon, which I didn't even know very much at that time.
Fantastic. And so, and to do it for 32 years, you must get something out of it. Why do you do it? What is it you love about it?
A whole variety of things, really. I mean, the main thing about it was I really felt that's what God called me to do. Part of one of the formative verses was from the end of Mark, where it says, go into the world and preach the gospel. So I figured preaching should be a part. So that was shaping in terms of ministry. And as time developed, then I felt it was a call to local church ministry. And it was trying to exercise the gifts that I believe God had given me to use, really. And it was that desire to help the church to grow. I joined the church in the early 80s. That was sort of boom time for loads of churches, really. And ours was included.
Brilliant. Just lean back a little bit there, Dave. Don't get too close, because there we are.
Sorry, yeah, I can't see me, folks. So sorry about that.
See your own shot. There you are. And so, in terms of, you mentioned there, finishing there and coming, being part of Highworth Community Church 5 years. I was going to say about 3. So there we are. Time flies. I appreciate we're not exactly the same as a Baptist church. Why do you like being part of HCC, and what do you enjoy about it?
Well, I like being there when I can, but because I work some Sundays, then obviously I can't be there on those occasions. I like it because it is a community church, and already I knew folks that were part of the church here. And I used to be involved with schools work, so I used to go into Headlands where Phil Baker was, so there were those connections. And it just seemed the right place to sort of explore. And when we came along, then we felt at home, and it felt the right place to join. And yeah, the rest is still ongoing, really.
Brilliant.
Very pleased to be part of it.
Yeah, and it's been, I love it when people like David and Heather and others, where God's brought us new people, but people that, if you don't mind me saying, are pretty much the finished article, people who've done loads of stuff with God.
I think that's highly optimistic, Matt.
Have processed, have grown, are mature, are people of faith, and we're richly blessed in HCC to have so many people in that position. But one thing, and Dave's going to often serve at HCC in terms of sharing, and he's going to be sharing this coming Sunday. about mental health, which is something you mentioned you've got involved with. That's why you're at work today. And so, how do you get involved in sort of mental health stuff? What's the heart behind it? Because you give a lot of time.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to give you, yeah, it just shows how God can use the imperfect, really, because one of our college lecturers, he did a doctorate in sin. That wasn't in doing it, that was about the theology of it. But he said there's not a perfect motive this side of heaven. So I got involved with a mental health chaplaincy simply because as part of my training, I had to do a hospital training course. I had to do a chaplaincy course. And so I opted for the one that would pay me some money because I was going to get married to Heather and I thought a bit of money would be useful. And St James's Mental Health Hospital, psychiatric hospital as it was then in Portsmouth, was available. It was 4 weeks. That meant I had lectures, but I also became like an HCA on the ward and did practical stuff. And that gave me some money as well. So it wasn't a pure motive, but it was formative, really. And from there, I guess linking in also with those that have been ministers of the churches where I'd been, they've been involved with they would have said counselling, but pastoral work. And I sort of followed that sort of pattern. And inevitably within any community, there are, we all are affected by mental health. And I got involved with others that sometimes their mental health was very poor.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it sort of grew and developed, really.
Yeah. And what does your work? I appreciate you can't share exact details, but for protecting people. But what was it you do at the moment? What does your work look like? And in the end, why do you love doing it?
I love doing it because I feel this is where, obviously I've got to click on here, otherwise it'll go away. Oh, sorry, you've lost me, haven't you? Am I back now? You still got me? Matt?
Yeah, I've got you.
Okay, that's good. It's just said it was going to go in 5 minutes, so I had to
All right.
click on the screen. You just got me and not the screen, is that right?
I've got you and I can hear you, mate. We're all good.
That's absolutely great. Good. Sorry, ask the question again because that distracted me.
Something about like what would your work look like now? Because you've retired from being a Baptist minister in terms of pastoring, but you're still pastoring where you are now in terms of people supporting people with mental health issues. So yeah, and talked about a bit about why you do it. What's it you get out of it?
So it was really because I started doing it 20 years ago this summer. And that started as an afternoon a week, which was Sandalwood, which is quite close to Iworth down the road. And that was acute admission, which means when people are mentally unwell, that's where they go to get assessed. And so I was working there an afternoon a week. Then they needed someone to work with later life folks. That was at the Victoria Centre. So that was the day. So that exposed me to the whole sort of dynamic of people struggling with different aspects of their mental health.
Yeah.
I felt that's where God wanted me to be. And as you say, I've got a passion about it because I think it's a God-given passion. And I think a part of the draw was because I believe in a God that heals, a God that is compassionate, a God that wants to reach out. And so that's where it seemed to lead me, really. And then when God opened the door to become full-time, that just seemed really the right thing to do.
Fantastic. So, like I just said earlier, Dave's going to be sharing with us on Sunday. We're going to be talking about mental health this coming Sunday, which is fantastic.
Is it May the 3rd or next Sunday?
This coming, May the 3rd, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, that's right. Just look quick on my calendar, lose what day it is. So, Dave, just to finish off today's interview, you got a word or a prayer you want to just share with everybody?
Yeah. And can I just say, it's very mixed what I do. So I've just been, because of the coronavirus, and we're limited what we can do. So I'm visiting one ward a day and then doing other stuff as well. So today I've been on a ward. And then some of that is talking with the guys. And then I had to join them in the garden and they were playing badminton. So that bit was really arduous, as you can understand. So it's a whole mixed bag, really. Sometimes you meet people in the depth of their pain. Other times their life is carrying on and they're doing regular stuff. So the passage that is sort of special to me at the moment comes from Romans 8. And it's a great chapter in the Bible, and I'd like to read it to you if I may. I'll hold it up so you can see my face. So it's Romans 8, verse 18, where Paul says, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. And then in verse 22, we know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. Verse 26, in the same way the Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. And he who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. And we know that in all things God works for good for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble, or hardship, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or danger, or sword? No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. And why I like that passage so much is because it says nothing can separate us from God's love. It reminds us that actually some of the things that happen in our world is because creation itself is struggling. But I believe we have a God who wants to reach out to us in these times and reveal his love and his help and his immediacy. So I think that's great news.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, David. Looking forward to hearing more from you on Sunday. So God bless you all. Have a fantastic day.